Hi everybody, this is Agnes from Sediment, and today let's talk about many faces of Valpolicella wines. Valpolicella, Ripasso, Amarone, Recioto, all these wines come from the same region, and yet it is very easy for a consumer to get lost and confused among these wine styles. So to provide some clarity and confidence, in this video let's talk about the different characteristics and production methods behind them, and at the end of the video do a little tasting. First things first, Valpolicella is a winemaking region located north of city of Verona in Veneto region, Italy. Similar to Soave, Valpolicella also has its Classico zone, the historic heart, because the boundaries of the region were expanded. Today it encompasses 19 communes, with 5 of them located within the Classico zone. Valpolicella, no matter if it is Amarone, Ripasso, Recioto or regular Valpolicella, is made from a native Italian grape varieties, primarily Corvigna, Corvignone, Rondinella and Molinara. Corvigna and Corvignone are the most important grapes for the blend, while Molinara is currently decreasing in its significance. Additionally, there are other complementary grapes used in the production of Valpolicella, such as Osselletta and Dinderella. And yes, it is one of those instances when wine is actually more famous than the grapes it is made from. Because let's be honest, how many of you have heard of these grapes? In general, and with very few exceptions, Valpolicella will be a lightly colored, fresh, crunchy red fruit-driven wine with moderate alcohol level and immediate appeal. In contrast, Amarone will be opposite of that, with rich and opulent body, densely concentrated, with dried fruit character and high alcohol. And the reason why Amarone stylistically is this way is also the reason why it is often called a made wine, or wine of process. Grapes destined for Amarone are harvested, and instead of straight going to the press, they are placed in well-ventilated rooms to dry. This process is known as appassimento. During this process, grapes can lose up to 30% of their mass, which contributes to the premium price for Amarone wines. As water evaporates, the remaining elements in the grapes, including sugars, acids, and naturally the phenolic components, become more concentrated. Consequently, despite sharing the same origin, human intervention shapes and defines these wines in a very distinctive styles. Legend has it that neither Amarone nor the crisp, cherry-driven Valpolicella wine were the original style of this area. In fact, these dry wines are relatively recent creation. The original style was Recioto, one of the very few high-quality sweet red wines out there. To produce Recioto della Valpolicella, grapes go through the same drying process as for Amarone. However, in this case, not all sugars are converted to alcohol, leaving wine relatively sweet. The reason why I say relatively sweet is because residual sugar in Recioto wines vary greatly amongst producers. Some may be drier with only 50 to 60 grams of residual sugar, while others will be much sweeter with beyond 100 grams of residual sugar per liter. But one thing is certain though, these are wines with intense nose of dried cherry, chocolate and balsamic, and pleasant tannin grip that balances the sweetness on the palate. If we consider Amarone, which basically developed as a commercial style in the middle of 20th century, a recent creation, then in these terms Ripasso is considered a baby. It received its DOC appellation only in 2010, and yet it has become quite popular over the short period. Ripasso is a style that not all winemakers in the region agree with, and some even refuse to produce it. They will make Amarone, Recioto and regular Valpolicella, but not Ripasso, as they believe they cannot achieve the same level of quality with the Ripasso production method. When Amarone or Recioto are drained from their skins, many will argue that these skins and lees still contain a lot of flavor. Therefore, they choose to use them for the production of Ripasso. In this case, fresh Valpolicella will be added to the pomace and short fermentation will start. Because these leftovers come from grapes that have been dried previously, it will not only slightly increase the alcohol content in the fresh Valpolicella, but also add body, structure and flavor intensity. In all honesty, Recioto is made in such a tiny amount, and because Ripasso production is strongly linked with the amount of production of Recioto and Amarone, almost all of Ripasso wines are essentially re-fermentation of Amarone pomace rather than Recioto. Some call these wines as little brother of Amarone or poor man's Amarone. And while generally they never achieve the same density or body, they will show both the fresh fruits of Valpolicella and dried fruits of Amarone on the nose, more pronounced tannin structure and body than a regular Valpolicella, and price-wise will meet you somewhere in the middle. But enough talking, let's do some tasting. I have here two producers, Cabotta and Pra, and I have all the four wine styles that we discussed before, so let's taste them. The first wine will be the regular Valpolicella, the supposedly zesty, fresh and cherry driven. As I mentioned, it is a lightly colored, and it is filled with crunchy fruit, but it is not only cherries, it is also raspberries and strawberries, red plum. Let's taste it. It truly is zesty wine. I mean, the acidity here is bright and refreshing, and I get why people think that Valpolicella is like pizza or fresh pasta wine. I mean, this is perfect wine for simple and honest Italian cuisine based on tomato sauce. The acidity definitely is the prominent feature here. The tannin, I would say it is rather playful. If we want to talk about its amount in the WSET style, I would say it is medium minus. Yeah, and it just creates this nice grip rather than a structure. So let's try wine number 2, which is Cabotta Valpolicella Ripasso Superiore. Superiore in this case means that this wine will have slightly, I think 0.5% higher alcohol level than the regular one. And naturally, this wine shows already some dried fruit characters, some chocolatey hints. For me, it also seems that it has some oak influence in it, some sweet toast vanilla, which Ripasso oftentimes goes through. But on the background, you feel lingering some of the fresher fruits, but much riper style cherry, I would say. It's not as crunchy or reddish, it's more towards the black style. Okay, let's taste it. Definitely way more body, it is richer, it is more opulent, and there is some sweetness on the back palate, which is normal because we have added Valpolicella to the pomace of Amarone, so there is a bit of that sweetness. It also has a higher grip on tannin, and the tannin is more drying. It is slightly like a cherry pit style, slightly bitter tannin, like a bitter chocolatey style. The alcohol is warming, but it is pleasantly integrated within the wine, and body and the fruit nicely supports it and kind of covers it within the wine. Shall we try the wine number 3, the Amarone? This one comes from Pra producer. This is 2015 vintage, so it should already show some development and tertiary notes on the nose. Like on the color, it does show some brick notes, which is natural, but what I want to say that Amarone, even when it is quite young, it will show that brick color because the grapes have been dried, they have gone through that drying process, that oxidation, which kind of makes this color more brownish, more developed. So it not necessarily means that the brown color is because of its age. I will say that this wine is more shyer, more laid back than the Ripasso was. And do I smell some floral characteristics here? I always assume that Amarone is this rich, big, opulent wine, and rarely will it show like these elegant floral characteristics, but this seems to smell of lilacs and violets. These blue spring flowers, really nice. I like it. And really pleasant, ripe cherry fruit. Nothing really like cooked or chocolatey or intense. And for 8-year-old wine, I think it is quite fresh. Now some chocolatey, some like sweet milk chocolate is coming out. Or, you know, like dates or figs covered in chocolate. Well, Naturally, this wine is defined by alcohol, which it has a lot. It is elevated, it is warming, it is the centerpiece of this wine, I guess, but it is not overpowering or bitter. I mean, sometimes when alcohol is too high, it can feel bitter, but here it is just wrapped with these beautiful flowers and beautiful fresh fruits. I don't usually like, and I'm often really against it, to compare wines with Burgundy or Bordeaux, but I think that this could be like the lighter style or Pinot Noir of Amarones, if you will. Shall we try the wine number 4? So this is Recioto from Cabotta, and this actually wine has a really nice story because I was lucky enough to meet the daughter of the owner, and he for the longest time would not make the Recioto in his portfolio because I guess there is some stigma with the sweet wines, and especially now when the style is shaping away from the sweet wines, you kind of don't maybe want to include them in your portfolio or they would be difficult to sell. But because she liked the sweet wine style so much, he decided to make this wine specifically for her, and I think it is really nicely done. And this wine really smells of milk chocolate or coffee bean dipped into the chocolate, and it is quite dense and intense on the nose. There's also some green element, but more like in a minty way. You know, sometimes chocolate is filled with some mint filling, so something like that. Okay, let's taste it. I think this wine is definitely towards the sweeter style, though it is not sticky, and there's nice refreshment on the palate. And what I love about it, it doesn't end on the sweet side. Actually, there's this nice cherry on the aftertaste and some nice tannin grip on the aftertaste, ripe tannin, and beautiful refreshing acidity rather than the sweetness. It kind of cleanses away. You get the sweetness on the beginning and then it kind of refreshes the palate. So what a beautiful wines. I mean, they are coming from the same grapes. You know, the blend sometimes can differ, but the grapes, the majority of them are the same. They come from the same terroir, and yet they are so different. The dryness are different, the styles, the bodies, the alcohol, really amazing. This is where Valpolicella shows its many faces. And of course, if you want to know the styles deeper, you should taste them, you should experiment with the producers, you should trust the producers that you like and see which wines you prefer the most. And maybe leave me in the comments which style of Valpolicella is your favorite. Neighboring Valpolicella, there is another winemaking region quite famous, which is Soave. And in my opinion, it is quite underrated yet amazing, so make sure to watch that video.